Welcome to the UGC EPG Pathshala lecture series in computer science. In this series of lectures, we have been looking at software engineering. For today's session, I will be continuing on the project human resource management. This is actually the continuation of a previous session where we have understood on certain theories for motivation, and from those theories what we have to understand and how does it influence towards the project is the discussion for this session. And to understand the maximum theories in human resource management to continue with, and how does it actually maximize the productivity of the team. So Thamhain and Weilmann's ways to have influence on the projects is the first discussion for today's session, where there are so many parameters with which we can analyze on the influence of the projects. So influence on the projects. One is on the authority, where we show the legitimate hierarchical right to issue orders, where if at all I need not be coercive, I need not be so powerful enough, but then I need to have appropriate authority to tell my juniors or tell my employees that, to tell my team members that I may have to produce right orders to them in a hierarchical, legitimate hierarchical fashion, so that they also understand on what is to be prepared. And I have to assign works in a proper manner. As a project manager, perceived ability to influence a worker's later work assignments. And it is my responsibility again to prepare a budget. The project manager perceived ability to authorize others use discretionary funds. Any funds that has been used by one of his team, it is to be authorized by the manager and with a proper justification. So that budget, how it is being utilized, should have a justification towards it. And there is a promotion where the ability to improve the worker's position is also being done, and money is also a point. Budget is different from the actual money that I am trying to provide. Budget is the actual overall budget that the entire project looks at, and money is only distributed to the lead or to the lower level, so that how it increases the workers' pay and benefits. How are the people getting punished? So the penalty that also we are looking at, the project manager's ability to cause the punishment, and looking out for work challenge, the ability to assign work that capitalizes on the work enjoyment of doing a particular task. How enjoyable is my work? That is what is theory Y talking on McGregor's theory. So am I taking it energetically to prove myself in an enjoyable manner? So the particular task that is being assigned to me, how the worker takes it as an enjoyment and work towards it, that becomes quite a bigger challenge. And I look for the expertise also. The project manager's perceived special knowledge that others deem very important. So that is experienced only by his expertise. And one other important thing to work on is as a team. So for this teamwork, we require a greater quantum of friendship also to be maintained. So that talks more on the ability to establish friendly personal relationship between the project managers and the others who are individuals participating in the team. There are certain methods for improving motivation. We can ask the employees to set up individual or specific goals for every individual, and after working on certain extremes, we can provide them with the feedback saying that these are very positive things that the person has approached, and these are quite appreciable, and certain things where the person needs a bit of improvement can also be given as a feedback. So that is for providing a feedback session. And there needs to be a clear distinction on the design of the job, where I can actually project the enlargement for a job, by where I can give the person promotion. In terms of promotion, I can encourage him saying that in terms of salary, wages, I can reward a particular person. Those becomes part of enlargement. Enlargement is basically giving a promotion, whereas enrichment is rewarding a person's job. So any job that has been done, I can reward in terms of wages, I can reward him in terms of giving appreciation within the team, and so Thus, that makes him feel much energized and motivated. Ways to influence that help and hurt projects. Projects are more likely to succeed when the project managers influence with expertise and work challenge. Project most likely fail when project managers rely too heavily on the authority, money and penalty. If at all the project manager relies only on the authority, if I have a coercive nature, if I am a person who is of uh, uh, pressurizing people to get extracted of a specific job, then there is a heavy possibility that the project might fail. So, if at all I am looking for the monetary benefits, there is a heavy possibility that the projects might fail, and if at all I am looking out for severe punishment to my employees without any proper justification, then there is a heavy possibility that the projects also likely to fail. So, the only thing that is expected out of a manager as a motivational aspect is the expertise on the project work, and the challenge that the manager projects towards subordinates is quite pronouncing. And when you look at the power, how should be the actual power of a manager? Power is the potential ability to individuals' behavior or to influence the behavior to get people to do things they would not otherwise do. So, power is to be given only when the individual's behavior to do a certain activity, only when they are not able to do. So, that is when we have to influence on the power. And when you look at the different types of power, we have coercive power, legitimate power, expert power, reward, referent, in which certain higher level top ups are very aggressive in nature. If you want to improve on the effectiveness, Stephen Covey in his 7 habits, he has said project managers can apply Covey's 7 habits to improve effectiveness on projects. So, any project manager need to be proactive before a person who raises some things. He need to be proactive enough to come out with justifications, or to not actually think from those perspectives, not making the employees to think very negatively on certain things. Begin with the end in mind. Put first things first. What is to be given top priority, that has to be put first. Think of a win-win situation. Project managers should not take a credit on himself, saying that it is only me who has taken towards the completion of the project. It is to be us who has guided for the proper completion of the work. So, the actual situation to be like in the form of a win-win situation. So, win is for the manager, but there is an actual contribution from the team together. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. So, any project manager needs to understand what is the level of work that he has actually to put work for. Then we may have to make our subordinates understand on what is to be done. Synergize on the environment, sharpen the saw. So, these are the basic qualities that a project manager needs to have, so that he can provide a project, he can avoid projects becoming failure, and he can benefit a lot and lot of out of it, and to make a project very successful. Empathic listening and rapport is what is a basic quality that is expected out of a project manager. A good project manager are empathic listeners. They listen with the intent to understand. Even when there are critical situations where the employee will come and complain about other members, they have their personal opinions to talk to a team, they have their individual opinions about the project that it goes along with. So, before an manager takes out a decision of a specific activity, there should be this manager should be an actual listener to the work. So, before you can communicate with others, you have to have a good rapport with them. Mirroring is a technique to help establish a better rapport. You may have to talk to the mirror so that you understand yourself better first, then you talk to the crowd, or you talk to your subordinates, so that you can get their rapport best out of it. IT professionals often need to develop empathic listening and other people skills to improve relationship with users and other stakeholders. Improving relationship between users and developers. Some of the very important point that we have left out in the previous slide is that how to maintain a rapport with the stakeholders and to the other project team members. So, this slide will talk more on the users and developers perspective and how to give more relationship between these users and developers. Some organizations require business people, not IT people, to take the lead in determining and justifying investments in new computer systems. So in many situations, not just IT people will give you a lot of synergism or will give a lot of inputs towards development of this strategy. At times there can be business people who can talk more of business and can lead value to it. CIOs not needed that they need to be IT people. CIOs push their staff to recognize that the needs of the business must drive all technology decisions. Some companies reshape their IT units to look and perform like consulting firms. Many a times most of the information technology industry wants to look like consulting firms also, so that they are expertise in their levels, they have understood the projects better than other firms, so that they wanted to make most of it, so they can also consult rather than develop projects basically. And as we have started with in the saying of human resource management as project human resource management, we initially stress on the importance of organizational planning. Later on we have gone for the behavioral understanding, but then we have not talked more about organizational planning. Organizational planning involves identifying, documenting and assigning project roles, responsibilities and reporting relationships. So whenever I talk on planning of a particular activity, this planning is a part of the software development life cycle. This planning is part of the project, but then the same planning has to be carried out towards the organization also. It should not be for the project alone, it should be for the entire of organization by itself. So whenever I am planning this for an organization, every project needs to understand the roles, responsibilities and the reporting relationships of it. So output and process of the organizational planning include project's organizational chart, work definition and assignment process, responsibility assignment matrices and resource histograms. If you look at a sample organizational chart of a very large IT industry, which has, if I look at the top down hierarchy, there will be chief technology officer or the vice president engineering who will be at the top of the lead at one level, and there are project managers who will be directly reporting to the chief technology officers, and there will be project specialists who will be giving consultation for the entire project that is to be developed. But within a project manager there will be different level of people who will be working, like system administrator, system analyst, technical expertise members, trainers. And if you look at system administrator, there will be hardware engineer, there will be senior hardware engineer and junior hardware engineer. System analyst basically will take out requirements from the stakeholders. So I have requirements analyst, I have technical clerk, and I have a technical person who can be a senior software engineer. There can be just a software engineer, there can be a database engineer, and there can be some trainers who can give a technical support and QA managers. And not only that, there need to be a support team, and most of this is a core team. There need to be a support team who will actually develop the entire quantum of work, which will be a support team. There should be a web designer, there should be a software QA engineer, quality assurance engineer, there should be a documentation team, there should be an information security engineer team, which actually looks out for the entire support and maintenance that will be happening at later part or during the implementation and also at the later part of the development of a project. This slide particularly talks about the work definition and assignment process, where if you look at the project, initially a project requests for proposal, there will be a contract agreement, there will be a charter, and there is a scope statement also, with which we will actually finalize the requirements. And the key outputs of all these inputs would be finalized project scope baseline and finalized technical baseline. Considering this as the input for the next stage, how work will be done will be, the output for it will be a program team approach, technical approaches. considering this to the breakdown of the work, so it cannot be done as a whole, so it has to be broken down into pieces. So there should be a work breakdown structure. So I am getting an output of work breakdown structure and activity definition, and once taken this as an input, I may have to assign each and every work to some teams. So there should be an organizational breakdown structure and organizational breakdown responsibility. If you look at this matrix, this is called a responsibility assignment matrix. If you look this sample of an assignment responsibility assignment matrix at various levels, starting from the system engineering, software development till the training, what kind of responsibilities have been considered, these are supposed to be the responsibilities, and where and what level in terms of the breakdown structure, what level does it stand with. Onto your tuple side we have work breakdown structure, onto your column side we have organizational breakdown units. See, the P is represented here understands on the performing organizational unit, and the R gives out your responsible organizational unit. If you look at system engineering at the initial case is responsible but not need to be performing. So at the later instances, say for versioning, different versions or taking up to the next level, it requires responsibility. So the first level it takes up only the responsibility, and the second level it has to show an appropriate increase in the performance. So whenever there is a slight improvement on the various versions of the system, requires both responsibility and performance. Likewise, it has been shown for different activities like system engineering, software development, hardware development, test engineering, quality assurance, configuration management, integrated logistics support and training. So whenever I consider all these organizational breakdown structures and list of work breakdown activities having broken down into so many pieces, the roles and responsibilities and the performance for all these activities have been shown this as a matrix. Similar to the responsibility matrix, we have for the stakeholder roles also. This is more concentrating towards the testing. So when should I actively involve the testing, or should I include the development along with the stakeholders, or should I test it along with the stakeholders or not, becomes the key issue on this particular testing. So some of the items that we have considered in this testing are unit testing, integration testing, system testing and user acceptance testing. And the major stakeholders of here are, say for example for unit testing, we have for all the kind of testing we may have to sign off initial along with the stakeholder, and at the next level we will be considering on the accountable part of it when it comes to unit testing, whereas with other testing it requires only the participant and not major of the stakeholder involvement. And as of unit test is concerned, as an improvement we will go for input requirement. Likewise, this matrix clearly indicates on the stakeholders participation towards different levels of testing. So after that we will look at the resource histogram for the large IT project. This is a sample resource histogram where onto the x axis I have the varying months in which the project is being executed and the number of people who are associated with. In the beginning, the involvement of developers is not at all required. So it is basically to gather the requirements, to analyze on the business, to understand the different pros and cons of the projects, those are involved. So if you look at this histogram, the component of the developer itself is missing out. So the participation of business analyst, the participation of manager, the participation of administrative staff and database analyst is little bit, or the contribution of these people are quite meager, whereas when I start with actually understanding on the requirements, then I take the involvement of the developers again. So I initially do a little bit of testing wherein I call the test engineers to identify what are the input and output, or what are the expected outputs that I might get based out of sample inputs. So when I go higher on the development, the involvement of the developer is too high. Say if you look at the entire chart, the involvement of the developer is high only at certain duration, then it quite often decreases. Whereas if you look at the other things, the involvement of a manager, analyst and the administrative staff is quite normal here throughout the project, and the involvement of software testing engineer is been dominating only after the development has actually happened. But then test engineers involvement is been gradual from the beginning till the end of the project, but then at the initial times the involvement of test engineer is been there, but then as and when the development has actually happened, the testing role actually increases. The next thing is on the staff acquisition. So staffing plans and good hiring procedures are more important in staff acquisition. So we need to have a very good hiring procedures, as I have already told you, selecting process for an employee, as are incentives for recruiting and retention. So retention rate is also need to be heavy. Retention means keeping the employees constantly for a longer period of time. So some companies give their employees $1 for every hour a new person they helped hire works. Some organizations allow people to work from home as an incentive. So as and when people try to experience themselves, we can give them a work from home atmosphere, so that can be an incentive for the employee. Research show that people leave their jobs because they don't make a difference, don't get proper recognition, aren't learning anything new, don't like their co-workers and want to earn more money. So the reason that the person wants to or wishes to leave a particular company is basically out of these reasons that we have specified. More likely the person, as and when he tries to experience himself, he is like looking out for more incentives or more appreciation in money. So that can somehow need to be resolved. The next thing that we may have to talk on is resource loading and leveling. Resource loading refers to the amount of individual resources an existing project schedule requires during the specific time periods. Resource histogram shows resource loading. Over allocation means more resources are available and are assigned to perform work at a given time. So this is a specific histogram which shows over allocated individual. Say for example, for a project which actually requires only 15 people, I might have put 30 people, which actually can lead to a failure or it can actually lead to a mess. So this is a sample chart where the actual amount of actual people that is required for a project is only this much, that is indicated in blue, whereas I have allocated more people to work for this job thinking that it can happen or it can finish early. So this can also lead to us to a problem. Resource leveling. Resource leveling is a technique for resolving resource conflicts by delaying tasks. So if at all we are trying to level all the resources, we are unfortunately there may be a conflict of delaying certain tasks. So the main purpose of resource leveling is to create a smoother distribution of resource usage and reduce over allocation. So when we in comparison with the previous slide, we should not actually feel that we have allocated more amount of resources than it is actually being required, and then we should not level it or we should not normalize it at a whole. So we as a manager, we should actually know what kind of resources are required at what point in time. Say for example, here resource leveling is being carried out with this PERT diagram. Shifting between 1 and 2, activity 1 and 2, it actually takes 2 days, but then activity A has 2 workers. Shifting between activity 1 and 4 actually takes 5 days, but then it has 4 workers. Shifting between activity 1 and 3 actually takes 3 days, it has 2 workers. So when we plot it in terms of days and the number of workers, if I execute C in the beginning, A in next and B next and A in the third, it takes up 8 weeks, 8 workers for me to complete it in 2 days. Whereas the similar work, it takes 3 days for me to complete C and B, and for 5 days to complete B by itself. So we may have to look at an equal composition of, say when we are about to go for a leveling. Say for example, this Second graph where resource usage, if activity C is being delayed for 2 days, its total slack time gets normalized. So when we execute B for almost 5 days, we require only 4 workers, after which when we take 2 more workers, we can normalize on the activity of A and C, by where we are about to complete the entire project by 5 days with 6 workers in maximum, and we need not go for extra 2 workers, whereby the management's overall role is getting decreased, management's overall budget is also getting decreased. And let's talk about team development. Team development takes teamwork to successfully complete most projects. So training can help people understand themselves, each other, and how to work better in teams. Team building activities include physical challenges, psychological preference indicator tools. So one of the type indicator, as mentioned by Myers-Briggs, which is MBTI. So this is a very popular tool for determining personality preferences and helping teammates understand each other. So this has 4 dimensions, like whether to identify a person as an extrovert or an introvert, and what kind of sensation or intuition he has got, whether he has got a capability of thinking or feeling, whether he has a capability of judgment or he just perceives it. Rationals are attracted to technology fields, whereas IT people vary most from general population in not being an extroverted or a sensing professional. In short, as a summary or conclusion to this particular session, we have been talking more on the project human resource management, where the role of a project manager is more understood. So we have understood on the project managers as to how to treat a people with consideration and giving a proper respect. We understand what motivates clearly with them, and we try to communicate carefully with them so that they are getting maintained. So retention rate becomes more heavy. And finally, the goal is to enable project team members to deliver their best work. So it is up to the hands of the project manager to maintain them with appropriate dignity, so that these employees will produce the best out of them. Thank you.